The toilet. Most of you have one, some of you are on one, but do you know how much water it takes to flush? If you're in the United States, the answer should be 1.6 gallons or fewer, thanks to a regulation passed in 1992. And while I love regulation as much as the next Pinko Zoomer, this one, at least in the short term, made things kind of crappy. The toilet industry's rushed new models flushed so unsuccessfully that people came to hate the idea of low water use, aka low flow toilets. It was a dark time, unless you were in the plunger industry. But over the last 30 or so years, low flows have quietly become the best, most powerful toilets out there. So what happened? How, after decades of conventional wisdom saying more water meant a better flush, did our toilets reach the top of their game while using less water than ever? And will this clown undo it all? And what does miso have to do with it? All these answers lie ahead. But first, some housekeeping. These videos are short, but our editors spend hours building animations and handling footage for them. I cannot, in good conscience, have them spend a whole week licensing, editing, and/or animating poop. Therefore, we will be visualizing solid waste as precious gems. Away we go. In the early 90s, the average American toilet used 3.5 gallons of water per flush, or over 13 liters, or about this much. Some used 5, even 7 gallons. So across this great land, single precious gems were being taken down with enough water to fill one of these. It was in this context that Father Bush signed the Energy Policy Act, banning the sale of toilets that used over 1.6 gallons or 6 liters per flush. History has forgotten why that was the number, but it was. So when the law passed in 92, manufacturers had until it took effect in residential buildings in 94 to develop new low-flow models to legally sell in the US. And they sucked. Or rather, they failed to suck enough or correctly. To understand why, let's learn how a gravity-assisted toilet flushes. Here's a toilet full of precious gems. When you flush, it lifts this thing, which releases this water. Some goes to these rim jets, some goes to something called the siphon jet. Back here, there's something called the trapway. Once there's enough water in the bowl to push water over the top of this curve, it creates a siphon effect, meaning water and gems start getting sucked through the trapway and out. Once air enters the trapway again, the siphon effect stops and the water refills. Some manufacturers build compliant toilets by changing only the amount of water that came through the tank, resulting in weak, short flushes that couldn't move particularly impressive gems. They were also too weak to wrench gem residue off the side of the bowl, leading to constant scrubbing. Kohler tried to get the same amount of flush strength out of less water by shrinking the hole at the bottom, which worked, but led to ceaseless clogs. This was the dire state of the American toilet for most of the 90s. Any new toilet you bought had to be low flow, but everyone knew they were bad and even required multiple flushes sometimes, which defeats the purpose. Well-meaning programs and giveaways across the country popped up to incentivize switching to low flows, but people refused. Some even traveled to Canada to get high-flow ones, or trawled yard sales for old models. Not exactly the water-efficient future regulators imagined when the Energy Policy Act passed. Now, you might be wondering, if these toilets don't work, how did they reach the market? Don't appliances have standards? And yes, they do. But the certification standards for toilets at the time was low-key absurd. The test involved tossing a bunch of paper, sponges, and plastic balls in the bowl and flushing. In order to pass, toilets had to successfully take down just 79% of the stuff. What would this tell you about how well a toilet works IRL? Very little, unless you plastic balls and sponges. Worse, the test was pass-fail, so consumers didn't even know if their would-be toilet aced its test or scraped by with a C+. Enter two visionaries that would change the world of toilet testing forever and reveal just how bad those new toilets were. Their names were Bill Gawley and John Kohler, but I couldn't find licensable images of them, so we'll be using Bill Hader and John Quincy Adams. Bill and John developed something called the MAP, or Maximum Performance Test. In this test, you see how many 50-gram tubes of soybean paste, also gems for our purposes, a toilet can take down in one flush, accompanied by 4 wads of toilet paper, 6 squares each. You repeat the test, adding 1 more bean paste tube every time until failure. The total grams of paste the toilet washed away in its last successful flush is its score. When they developed the test, Bill and John's benchmark for a good toilet was one that could handle 250 grams, or just over half a pound. They chose this because it was the weight of the largest single gem produced by a healthy man in a 1977 study about such things. Backed by 22 water utilities and municipalities in the US and Canada, they tested 44 toilets that had passed the plastic ball and sponge test, and only 24 of them scored over 250 grams on theirs. How are we, the American people, supposed to live with that? You've seen our meals. We need power! While Bill and John were figuring out the MAP test, toilet manufacturers were redesigning from scratch. Some of them built models with jets at the bottom to push gems out more forcefully. Some added pressurized air to the tanks to push water faster. Some, like the now beloved Toto Drake model, sent 2 diagonal streams of water around the bowl 8 times as it refills, cleaning it better. And where did all this innovation get us? The moon. Wait, no, sorry. Better toilets. It got us to better toilets. See, in 2003, the average MAP score was 336 grams, with many falling short of that 250 gram benchmark. But by 2017, the average was up to 882 grams. Today, many models can do 1,000. And if you're wondering what 1,000 grams of soybean paste looks like, it's this. And all of this is with the 1.6 gallon per flush limit still in place, because, fun fact, it's basically impossible to get rid of. The mandate from 1992 stipulates that any new regulation has to be stronger than the one that came before. And even that would be fine because most current models use just 1.28 gallons per flush, or under 5 liters. A brighter day has dawned in America. MAP testing is voluntary but commonplace for most toilets, and you can even search a database to pick your toilet based on MAP score and tons of other parameters. There are still programs across the country that help pay for low-flow toilets, and they save tons of water, obviously, and tons of energy too, because they demand less water to be pumped and decontaminated. If everyone in the United States switched to a 1.28 gallon per flush toilet, we'd be looking at water savings of around 260 billion gallons a year, just shy of 1 trillion liters, aka almost 394,000 Olympic swimming pools. You could give a pool to every single person in New Orleans, or Cleveland, or Florence. What a world. So with everything going well, toilets working better and using less water, consumers informed about their toilet's power, the soybean paste industry thriving, why, on day 1 of his second term, did this guy get to work trying to eliminate flush volume regulations? He's actually been vocal in this issue for a while, famously saying in 2019 that low-flow toilets were forcing people to flush them 10, even 15 times. I have 2 theories. 1, he hasn't retained a memory since 1996, or 2, his bowels are so crazy that he regularly demands more than 1,000 grams of performance out of the White House toilets. Both plausible. But in either case, don't worry. Seemingly nobody, from toilet makers to consumers to plumbers, agrees with him here. In fact, last time he was in office, he made a loophole to allow showerheads to be pre-90s level of water inefficient, and nobody even used it. So let this be a reminder. Regulation can be good, actually. It can incentivize industries to make better, more resource-efficient products, all while angering one very bad man, even if it takes a second to get there. In the end, it's a win-win-win. You know what else is a win-win-win? Signing up for this video's sponsor, Nebula. Win number 1. It's a streaming service created and shared by tons of your favorite YouTube creators, and you can watch all of our videos there ad-free, sometimes before they drop here. It's also home of Nebula Originals, big-budget, creator-led projects that the economics of YouTube just don't support, whether that's current event shows like Real Life Lore's War Room, fiction projects like The Prince or Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend from PhilosophyTube, or comedy shows like Abolish Everything, my team's newest, stupidest show yet. And lastly, win number 3. Right now, you can enjoy everything Nebula has to offer at a huge discount. 40% off, just $36 for an entire year if you use the link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Learn about a war, complain about an ex, abolish the dentist, all on Nebula.